I'd like to tell you why a soul sanctuary circle is so important to me and how my version of holding a soul sanctuary circle has developed over the years. So, soul sanctuary became a very important concept for me when I first started to explore my inner life, and that happened first through writing and then through spiritual practice. And especially the more I got into my writing, the more there was this kind of inner calling to go to faraway, um, remote, beautiful places. And at that time, I was living in Scotland, so I used to go up to the Northwest Highlands of Scotland, which those of you who know that area will know is just absolutely magnificent. Quite sort of barren moonscape in a way, right up in the Northwest. But what was important in terms of my inner being was the spaciousness, the freedom, the mental freedom that gave me, the emotional freedom because I was away from the cares and worries of social life. It was beautiful. It was awe-inspiring. There was something there that kind of lifted me up, that reminded me that there was something greater than my own little ego going on in the world. So there was space, there was beauty, there was solitude. And I found that in solitude, I just connected really deeply with myself and also really deeply with everything else. So I could be on my own in a faraway place, and yet I felt connected with everything and everybody. It was like everything was there in my heart, and I was connected with my heart. And so I loved this feeling of quietude and silence and inner listening. Became a very important part of my life, and I've been very blessed for ever since then to have lived in some absolutely stunning places. But then there started to develop for me a need to bring these values of the soul sanctuary into my meetings with others. And I'd been involved with groups. I've always been involved with groups. Kind of felt more comfortable in groups than anywhere else, really, to be honest. And for 10 years, I was part of a community of therapists, of Gestalt therapists. And then after that, I got seriously involved in spiritual practice, and I participated in several different spiritual communities. And I found that, each different community would give me a piece of what I was looking for, but not the whole of what I was looking for. So in the therapy community, for example, there was still a lot of shadow material around and an ego, including mine. And this could be painful and confusing at times. And then in the spiritual communities, we were practicing meditation. We were going into some really deep and high places in ourselves, but we weren't encouraged to talk about our inner life. So that aspect was missing for me. And so about 20 years ago, I just followed an inner longing. I didn't know really what it was I was reaching for, but I knew there was something beyond what I'd already experienced in terms of group work that I wanted to find and create. And so I set up a series of experiments, and the first one, I think I called it Holistic Learning Network, and about 6 people came. And honestly, I didn't really know what it was, and I started from that place. I don't know what it is I'm looking for, but it's something to do with this. It's something to do with being more present with each other, meeting without an agenda, and just speaking from that place. And those 6 people that came, they were obviously looking for something similar, because they kept coming. Even though we were kind of floundering around in the dark, really, they kept coming. So that told me that I was onto something. And then the second experiment I did, I had about 12 people came. And again, I still didn't really know what I was doing. And to be honest, the group meetings were quite chaotic at times. They were very frustrating at times. But that group went on meeting for months. So again, there was something that those people were looking for. So I've been in this experimental process, really trying to develop a space where a group of people can come together and have that sense of spiritual and creative freedom, that sense of solitude, that sense of connection, and yet to be co-creating together in that space. And the next thing that happened for me was I met my dear friend Woods Elliott, and he and I lived together for 3 years. And he had been having his own version of the Soul Sanctuary circles. He called it Deep Discovery Conversations. And so while I was with him, we used to meet several times a week we'd set up a time and a space, and we would have these deep discovery conversations together. And so he shared with me the kind of guidelines that he developed to enable these conversations to work. So over the years, I've realized that in order for a Soul Sanctuary circle to work for a group of people, that it needs to have a really safe container, and that as the facilitator of that, it's my responsibility to set up that container with a set of guidelines, with a theme that we can follow, so that we all know why we're there. And within that container, there's a lot of flexibility, there's a lot of freedom. Nobody is trying to fix anybody. Nobody is trying to make it better for anybody. We're all just there to speak from our deepest authentic self. And so for me, the Soul Sanctuary is still an ongoing experiment, but it's something I've experimented with many times now, and I'm getting, with each new version, I get more and more clear about what needs to be in place. And so that's what I'm inviting you into. I'm inviting you into an experiential place for deep connection, for speaking from our authentic selves, for spaciousness. And I'm providing the guidelines and the themes, the safe container. That's what I'm inviting you into. Thanks for listening.